That firearm did not walk itself into the school. An individual who was allowed to go unchecked by the Broward County Sheriff's Office allowed that firearm to go in the school. This is not the fault, nor are 5 million innocent law-abiding Americans culpable for this.
That's Dana Loesch, St. Louis, and Dana Loesch, who's now spokesman for the NRA, among other things. Stephen Roberts joins us, ABC News political analyst. Good morning, Stephen Roberts.
Hey, McGraw.
It seems like everyone's talking and using the same language, but yet the language is not defined, and everyone's all over the place, and no one's listening and everyone's talking on this gun debate.
Well, that's always true about gun debates. The people talk past each other, and this has been true for a long time. But I do think we're possibly, and I've been very cautious here, McGraw, possibly at an inflection point. The reason why Dana Loesch and the NRA has dominated this debate for a generation is intensity. She talks about their 5 million members. That's really not that many when you think about it. But every one of those people cares deeply about guns, cares deeply about the Second Amendment, is willing to contribute money and vote on these issues. And that's why the gun debate has been dominated by gun owners. CNN poll out this morning shows that 70% of Americans think there should be changes in gun laws, and yet the NRA continues to dominate the debate. The question is whether Parkland changes the dynamic. The question is whether this outpouring of very genuine, very compelling feelings on the part of these young people, and not just at Parkland, because social media has made this a national movement where students all over the country are energized and organized around this issue. Does that change the dynamic? Is there now intensity on the other side to rival what the NRA has been able to mount in the past? And does that change the politics of it so that folks who have lined up with the NRA, are they now willing to consider some reasonable changes? I think the answer is possibly yes, but it has to play out before we know for sure.
Here's why I say no, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this. You mentioned that CNN poll, 70% of Americans want some type of restrictions on guns. Okay, fine. That I agree with that 70%, that's plausible. But the question is, how many of that 70% are single-issue gun voters? The 5 million NRA plus however many other gun supporters are single-issue voters. You know, right? They don't care just as long as you say you will not take away my guns. That's where the power comes in. Those 70% are not single-issue voters, and that's why Democrats, when it comes to elections, run in the opposite direction of gun control.
You're absolutely right about that. You're absolutely right. And I agree completely that that's why I say the intensity has always been on the side of the gun owners, and that's why they have been so successful. They are single-issue voters. The people on the other side who might send some money to gun control organizations also care about a dozen issues: the environment, reproductive rights, and equal pay for women, and a dozen other things. What I'm thinking here is that the emotions, the very genuine, ground-up, grassroots emotions generated by Parkland, could change some of the political calculations. You had some Republican governors over the weekend, very interesting group, tend to be a little more pragmatic than the members of Congress. Governor Haslam of Tennessee saying it makes no sense to say you can't buy a beer till you're 21, but you can buy a gun before you're 21. You had Governor Kasich of Ohio saying, let's look at the common sense changes that can be made that can keep our communities safer. And one of the reasons why Republican governors are wavering on this is the role of suburban Republican women voters. They tended to vote for Trump in the last election because they hated Hillary Clinton and they were loyal Republicans. But you saw in the Alabama Senate race, you saw in the Virginia governor's race, these suburban Republican women drifting away from the Republican Party. And we know from the polling, McGraw, that mothers of young children are much more likely to be in favor of gun control laws. They don't buy the NRA argument that guns make you safe. They think guns are a threat to their children. And that's one of the key political variables here that could convince at least some Republicans, particularly Republican governors, to entertain at least modest gun changes.
So you're saying suburban women are going to change this one way or the other?
Possibly. I am being very tentative here because you are absolutely right in saying history is very clear that the pattern has been repeated over and over again after Newtown and a dozen other incidents. There's an outpouring of feelings. There is concern and hand-wringing, and then it dies away. And the gun owners and NRA are always there, always vigilant, always a political force. Their enthusiasm does not wane. Their commitment does not diminish. And that's why they keep winning. So I'm only saying I see the potential for a change here because I think the outpouring from the grassroots is genuine. And I think the other factor you got to keep your eye on is the changing nature of how people get information. Social media can empower grassroots movement in a way that we've never seen before. Look at the Me Too movement and the way women connected around the country and then an upsurge of feelings based on their own real-life experiences. That certainly changed the environment in a number of ways. The question is whether that can be duplicated on this issue.
Stephen Roberts, ABC News political analyst every Monday with us. Have a good week, sir. Thank you.